Hello, I'm Steve. A little about myself. I'm a retired law enforcement officer with 20 years of service. I began my career in the jail, worked the road, and became an investigator. During my career, my training consisted of everything from SWAT to becoming a state certified crime scene technician. I've investigated crimes from thefts to homicides. After retiring and becoming aware of true crime and web sleuths, I started my channel for web sleuths to better understand the perspectives of law enforcement. Not only do we cover true crime, I go out into the field and assist families who have lost loved ones to homicide and their cases are considered cold. Join me as we look and bring attention to these critical cases.
Hello, everyone. Glad to see you. Appreciate everybody being here for the morning watch. And I see I have a lot of my regular crew in here. And for anyone that's new to the channel, just respect families, mods, and each other. And I'll answer the questions as we go. The morning watch is a little bit different than the one when Mrs. Steve is over here assisting. But we'll get to your questions as we see them. And I appreciate y'all being here. One of the things that we really have to focus on when we're talking about offenders is their victims. Because as we see in the cases that we're looking at tonight, absolutely, it was people, the victims are innocent, never expected what was their fate. And these type of offenders within the family or even the unknowns, because we have a little bit of each of the three I selected, of course, is, we have Alex. He was tried and convicted. And we have this Letitia who is being tried currently. Fascinating. I was looking at the crime scene evidence today in the arrest affidavit. Absolutely amazing of how much evidence was left behind, even though she tried to clean up. And then we have one that's awaiting trial, of course, Richard Allen. But let's look at some of this first about these are our victims. I mean, you have this young child here, Gannon, absolutely beautiful young boy. His father absolutely devastated, and what would possess a stepmother to do what was done to this young man? There's no excuse. And as the trial moves forward, I'm looking for some justice for him, although there will never be a complete justice for any of these victims. And then, of course, we have to look at Libby and Abby, which is an upcoming trial. And of course, if you have any information that would assist in the prosecution of this case, absolutely make sure that you let law enforcement know that, and so we can have justice for them. And then, of course, justice was just found for Maggie and Paul Murdaugh with the conviction of Alex. Although, even with that conviction, it doesn't balance their loss of what they would have done with their families and everything. So, and it's just horrible how this stuff occurs in our society. And it's never, it's a surprise that we think every time that we have a new case that we've seen it all. And then we see one that's far more horrible than the one that we just watched on some of our court TV networks or whatever for our true crime. So it's just terrible in so many meanings of the word. But anyway, let me see who's all in chat tonight, and then we'll get to the offenders part of this. JJ, good to see you. We got BG, Dave. We got my Waffle House aficionado out here. But Dave, unfortunately, when I got to Hampton, South Carolina, I pulled up at the courthouse and typed in on my map app, and the closest Waffle House was 30 minutes away. And I had just passed a Huddle House. So I went to the Huddle House, and I wish that the Waffle House was a little bit closer. And I could have drove to the Waffle House that was 30 minutes away and gotten my food quicker than I did there. Unfortunately, they were just overwhelmed that morning. They were slammed, and I think it was almost 52 minutes before from the time I ordered till the time I got my food. And for anyone that's new to this channel, this is what happens here. We start off with true crime and we wind up at a Waffle House somewhere. But that's just the night watch, the morning watch. All right, let's see who else is in here. Mitzi, good to see you. And Miranda, Jill, there's Jocelyn, Deborah. Oh, Deborah has an excellent question. Hi, everyone. In Chicago, we have a waffle pancake house. Is that the same? No. I wouldn't imagine, but probably similar. I'm sure the hash brown eggs, waffles, but Waffle House is very unique in the South. A lot of fights go on. I don't know how the Waffle House place up there is, but I'm pretty sure they don't match us fight for fight. And let's see here. We got Pigeon Mac here. Single Mama 4. Dandy, good to see you. Betsy, and Ray, Madison. Let's see here. Brenda, good to see you. Triple S says, glad you're doing the morning watch. My schedule doesn't allow me to visit during the regular scheduled programs for a couple more weeks. Yeah, we will. Tonight would be our only morning watch until next Wednesday. With Easter night and everything. I won't be doing the morning watch on Sunday. Good to see you, Stacy. Had to keep up a little bit. There's Sea Turtle. Love that name. Mrs. Steve will appreciate that. Jeff, good to see you. Did Mrs. Steve get you that shirt? That's a really nice shirt. Yes, Mrs. Steve has to buy all my clothing for the fact I have no style. Actually, I have a red-green deficiency. I'm colorblind, which is a terrible thing for anybody in crime scenes, investigator. And didn't know it until I was I think I was 29 years old before I realized that I was colorblind, and which made me very aware that on my crime scene team that everyone else had to have good weren't any of them had any type of color blindness, and so they would always, of course, I'd survey the scene and we'd move in, but they always made sure that I didn't disturb any of the blood evidence. It's a weird thing. All right. Let's see here. Jessica, good to see you. Huddle House wants to be Waffle House that can't get to their level. When the waitress at the Huddle House asked me how I wanted my um, hash browns, I told her whatever color smothered and chunk was, and she said, "Oh, all the way." I said, "Okay, that'll work for me." Debbie, good to see you. You got a fake spider from Mrs. Steve? Oh goodness. Yes, you are correct. She is the epitome of evil. And with that being said, we'll move into some of our offenders. We have Richard Allen, of course. It's amazing this picture that was released and of someone that's in jail, and it was, and I can understand the attorneys obtaining such a picture and to get it out there in the news media. Now, will it have the desired effect that they want that picture to have? Because it doesn't look anything like the individual from 2017. And so Is that what they want? Are they going to be trying for some type of plea deal? And we have some information, of course, that we're going to look at regarding this offender. Um, I don't really have a lot of feelings towards anyone that's, everyone's assumed innocent until proven guilty. But when there's certain evidence that is there, and we have an individual says, I was on the bridge that day, didn't see the girls, didn't see the witnesses, didn't see the victims, and says, I was on the bridge at the same time they were, dressed in the same manner, and his bullets found at the crime scene. To me, that's, powerful evidence. And what will be the outcome of it? I'm hoping, of course, it will be justice found, and we'll see how the defense, uh, you know, faces that uphill battle of overcoming that evidence. But there was something that they also put out there that, as far as some of the things that they were complaining about, and as with all these offenders, especially the ones that have preyed upon the innocent children, they're not viewed well in the jails or the whatever type of holding facility, correctional institute that they're placed in, awaiting trial. And but you know, he's they're complaining everything from that the cell he's in is too cramped. He's on a pad on a concrete floor, which means more than likely there is overcrowding in that facility, um, and all the other stuff. I can see some basis of this that he isn't found guilty at and he is innocent, and so he should be getting almost anything and everything that he would at home. But I'm really not going to go to bat for him because I do believe that he is guilty of those crimes. It's just my opinion, and so I wish that some of this stuff wasn't going on, and that it was being brought, you know, for the ones out there that, and it's hard to talk about these trials as we await, because, like I said, everybody's innocent to prove guilty, and they should have certain accommodations, and it shouldn't be too much of a hardship. But like I said, how do you balance that? And these jails and holding facilities, it is a hard way of trying to figure out what is that balancing point. And uh, will his will he ever serve enough time if he's found guilty for his deeds? No, he'll never serve enough time in my eyes. Just like Kagan Klein uh, will never serve enough time in my eyes. Anyone that would facilitate what he has caused children around the country and the world by promoting and allowing people to feed his sick fantasies. Absolutely, I have no use for any of them. But and they're they have a lot of complaints and everything about everything from his electronic tablet to recreational time. And now I don't agree that it's difficult for his attorneys to meet with him given his segregation and isolation. They always, I don't know the situation in this, but the courts will make sure that that's not happening for the fact that all the other stuff is just general population. But the issue is where they're saying that they can't have access to him. The courts are not going to allow that. He's going to be able to have access by his attorney. And this memory loss and all this overall inability to communicate rationally, are they going to be making those steps? And is this part of where they're heading with the defense? So I look forward to seeing what's going to happen with that. And then we have this truly evil person yet and again, not convicted yet, and is also having those mental conditions and issues. and what she did to that young child. That, as you see, the evidence that she attempted to clean up, people that have the ability to try to cover their tracks aren't insane. Um, insane people don't know they did wrong. If you're trying to clean up and hide a crime and getting other family members involved in cleaning that crime scene up, that's not insanity. Because insanity, in my eyes, is when someone actually doesn't know the difference between right and wrong. That's not the case when you try to clean up a crime scene. And then, of course, um, I'll be doing on that affidavit, arrest affidavit. I'll do a analysis of it, the crime scene processing, the luminol. They use a lot of luminol in this case, which is fascinating, and um, and I've got to do some testing with my luminol of the synthetic blood and see if it behaves, because it went through the carpet, went through the padding, went to the concrete floor. And so I'm going to do some testing with my synthetic blood and recreate that and see if it works the same. And then, of course, we have Alec Murdaugh, who was just convicted, and which uh, I saw some weird articles about this. Um, he's serving time, but he's getting love letters. Um, anyone that would send a love letter to a man that has slaughtered his wife and child, um, I think that's a perfect match. Um, and don't ever complain what happens to you. That's just my opinion, but it's absolutely crazy what some people will do. And I seen it um, in the jails that I worked in, and same thing. You'd have these women that would come to the jails and absolutely um, fall in love with these criminals, regardless. Crazy. Never understood that. All right. So let's go over here. Um, Mama Styles. I'm trying to muster up some sympathy, not for Richard Allen. Yeah, I can't either. I hate that it's against what I normally for, but I just can't give him any sympathy, um, and I won't. Oh, and Brenda says there's no Waffle Houses in Michigan. That's sad. I was wanting to go up there. Mary Jenkins is in Alabama. Good to see you. Jessica. Um, oh yeah, Jessica. I love Waffle House food for whatever reason. I ate at them for many, many years and nights. Um, maybe Westville is over medicating Richard Allen. Um, he doesn't look healthy. I have to give him that. And and there is a process of evaluations that they will do for the medical staff, and I'm sure that the attorneys will request some evaluations in the near future for him. And you're exactly right. The victims are lying in the cold hard ground because of this animal. Absolutely. I hadn't heard that. That he may be that ill. Like I said, I really don't know, but um, I hope that's not the case until we find out the total story and are there other involved, because that's the a true travesty is if there are others involved in this. And this is about as true a statement that child offenders should never be released. Absolutely. Let's see here. Yeah, he does look terrible, Cindy. But Let's see what else is going on. After Richard Allen is found guilty, you can do whatever you want to him. I wish that was the case. Yeah, he is a monster. Hello, Boston Christian. There's Stacy. Good to see you. Jessica. Yeah, it is. Jessica, it's how his dad kept his cool is beyond me, and and you see that a lot uh, in the families and things that even with uh, Alex, um, that Buster, he's lost everything. He lost his brother and his mother, and his father, of course, and uh, how will he live with that fact, and how will they proceed, and what will the rest of his life be like? Because you know, uh, until something comes up against him, of course, he's absolutely and innocent. And even with the accusations that are out there floating around of him possibly being involved with the Smith homicide, and where will that go? And uh, the biggest thing and biggest question is that um, when SLED uh, came out and the attorney and they spoke to them, and they said that there was something found at the property that brought their interest to a Murdaugh connection with the Smith case, which uh, what does that mean? It's almost as confusing as with the Richard Allen when we have other actors. And so uh, these prosecutors and these agencies sometimes talk in riddles and create more confusion than they do answers. Hope he drops the soap. Yes, the criminals on the street, when they're the predators, is totally different than when they get into a situation where they're not the one. Um, what is it? The saying about it, it's no fun when the rabbit has the gun, um, and um, and so same thing when these people go to prison, they no longer are the predators; they're the rabbit, and um, and so they're having to deal with uh, some higher predators. Yes, absolutely. She knew what she was doing, um, and I'm still amazes me how she was able to get him to Florida. I still haven't seen all the connections of when that occurred and how that occurred. So I'm looking forward to seeing exactly that play out, because that is amazing um, uh, with him missing. And that's what I'm saying is I hadn't got to that part of the case yet, and I just don't see how that is even a possibility. Um, Mitzi, you and Mrs. Steve are on the same channel when you talk about the devil in their eyes. Mrs. Steve absolutely lays claim that she can see that. Now, I've seen a lot of people in uh, with skittish eyes, and I try to read their eyes. Whenever you're interviewing someone or on a traffic stop, especially, it's never good if they're looking at your gun belt. Um, and you follow their eyes to what they're looking for, and you watch their hands and make sure they don't have anything in them. But and you can see watch their eyes and see when they're looking for a way to get out, and they're looking over at the wood line trying to figure what's the easiest way up the embankment is. but and I can read those mannerisms, but as far as seeing the evil in them, I've really never really paid attention to it. But uh, you can see that a lot of these photographs, when they publish them, I don't know if they look through the photographs and try to find the ones with 1,000-yard stare, but there is seemed to be a common factor, even with Kohlberger. When you look at his eyes, that they have that dark, blank stare of like a shark or a cat. Absolutely unreal. Yeah, Betsy, there's people that think he's innocent. People are nuts. Sweet Carolina. Yeah. Why in the Pigeon Mac says uh, writing letters to killers? I think even Charles Manson, he same way. I mean, what in the world possesses these people? And Pigeon Mac, well said. Yeah, he did not learn a lesson. He disposed of life as if it did not matter. And Liberty and Abigail do matter. You are absolutely correct. That's a And that's an interesting thought because, like I said, I I've never been in the position of trying to figure out what drives a woman's mind, and I don't ever try to. Whatever Mrs. Steve tells me that she's thinking, I respect, um, and but the women's perspective, and I'm gonna ask her about that and see what her response of what would be the reasons that someone would write a love letter. Although I can tell you that Mrs. Steve's comments probably won't be publishable on my channel because she absolutely is hardcore when it's anyone that preys upon children. Um, and so, but it is, you say that some women like the bad boyfriend is kind of the play acting um, and that just doesn't make sense to me why any woman would find someone that's done these acts as something that's appealing or even as some type of clout to that, oh, I'm dating so and so. If you walked up to me and said that you're dating Richard Allen or you're dating um, Alex Murdaugh, I pretty well think that you're a nut. Kowalski, good to see you. You're not late. Um, Dave, Steve, do you think it's possible RA went back to a crime scene later to stage crime? I went there and I went there at night. And it's totally different at night. Now, if he went there with lights and things, which would have been a high risk, but no, I think that everything was done, and he left the crime scene as it was found. And I don't think anybody went because that terrain is absolutely hostile at night. And I walked it, and I went to the crime scene in total darkness. Didn't use my cell phone light or anything, and and then walked out. And if that was his first time into the Ron Logan property, I doubt that he would have been able to find it again at night because the terrain, I had been there in daylight. And then just a few hours later, on my first time there, I went back at night. And although I found the crime scene, but it wasn't that easy because there's these big ravines that come down through there, and you get in one of those ravines, and wherever it leads you out to the Deer Creek is where you come out at. and then you have to climb another. Some of the embankments, once you get down to the creek, it may be only 6, 8, 10 feet, but it's still in total darkness, something hard to do. And you would be able to see a light. If anyone was over on the Weber property and they saw lights over there, um, it would be something that you would notice. Now, you wouldn't be able to see it from Ron Logan's side because that ridge line drops off pretty steep down to the creek from his side. But from the Weber property and their driveway, you would be able to see lights quite easily. So I don't think he went back at night. Just my opinion. Now, he may have, but I don't think he did. And that's a good point, Ann. That he may just be refusing to eat and refusing to wash, and to what end? And what has he learned from other inmates about how to do this? That without this, if this is all some type of ploy, that will this lessen his term? And so I would look at it that he is trying to manipulate the system. I would, just my 2 cents. Hello, Truffles. Yes, he does look thin. John Shepard. How John says, do you think Buster would visit Alex in prison, as I think deep down he knows Alex did that to his mother and brother, if Buster did not have something to do with it himself? And it is possible that he will. I know they've had some conversations. I haven't listened to all the conversations, but I've heard that they have been talking. So we'll see what happens eventually. And yes, this is a question, and you see some parents that actually do take matters into their own hands. And how did he keep himself, Pigeon Mac, from laying hands on her? And I have no idea. Absolutely unreal. Let's see here. Um, Jeff says, I guess this may be normal weight loss. I mean, look at how heavy Alex was when he went in and how skinny he was when he got convicted. Well, and then we got Kegan Klein, who went right the opposite. And why is that? I don't know. I think I may have to ask Dr. Susan exactly what that does mean, which way that is, and see what the mental aspects of that, and why people, you always hear that some people do eat under stress, and obviously some people don't. But it is interesting that these offenders, that they plan out and they think they have a perfect crime, and they prey upon these children. Do you think that Richard Allen said, well, I'm going to go and commit 2 homicides, and then I'm going to contact the police, tell them I'm there, and then when they arrest me a year or 2 later, I'm going to starve myself? That wasn't his plan. His plan is I'm going to go out and prey upon whatever his ideal fantasy was, and he did. He completed it, and but his intention was never to get caught. The same with Letitia, or how you pronounce her name. That her intention by cleaning up the crime scene was never to get caught. And Richard Allen the same. Not Richard Allen, but Alex Murdaugh absolutely sane. Every time these people commit these crimes, they do it with the intention of trying to cover it up and misdirect and stage it. Because that's one thing all these crimes have. There's a part of it that there is staging involved. Um, from some of it may be staging in the crime scene for their fantasy or misdirecting the path of the investigation. And, Letitia, she called in that he had run away. And then, of course, Alex calls in that he just got back from his mother's and discovered. And Richard Allen, of course, says that he didn't see anybody and doesn't know anything, and other than puts himself on that bridge. And but there's some information that at the crime scene there were certain things that were staged there, and what was that staging and why was it staged? And so I hope that we do get answers to that. Badger life. You don't think Buster knew what was going to happen? I don't. Um, I I have not heard any evidence of that. Now, is it possible? Absolutely, but no, I haven't heard anything, and um, I know that there was rumors that he was probably involved in it in some manner, but I never saw any evidence of it. And that is a good point, Sharon, that Buster will have to lean on his uncles and their families now. And of course, that's all he has left is extended family. And I did see that there was businesses in Hampton that had that family name um, attached to them. Plus, they still attorneys and everything else. This will do nicely. How you doing? Good to see you. Yeah, Cynthia, good to see you. We are doing well. I'm almost recovered from my trip over there. It was a good trip. I learned a lot about the crime scene in the community. So, yeah, I am exhausted. It's been as we get older, we don't recover as quick as we used to. Joanne, I'm late. Just take my daughter to the airport. She's dancing for England and Barcelona. Glad I caught you live. Glad you did too. WO22, absence of booze will result in quick weight loss. Um, I believe that's correct. I don't know where Gannon's biological mother is. That's a good question. Um, um, and Ann, yes, Ted Bundy actually got married, and I think he had a child from the jail. Um, and yeah, it's absolutely amazing. Yeah, see. Yes, there's a lot of and not just insane ones, but there's a lot of criminals in there that until they join up, and sometimes you'll have these criminals that will come together, and when they get out of jail and paroled, and they get together, they're not independently by themselves. They're not dangerous, but when you put their personalities together, they become absolute uh, a nightmare. That without each of them feeding off of each other, they wouldn't have the abilities to commit the horrible crimes that they do, and that does occur. And it's I've seen it a time or two. Steve, just because we are told both these pictures are of Richard Allen doesn't mean they are. I'm suspicious of this case in its entirety. That's a good thought. That's what I'll probably go with. That it's been photoshopped, and it is a possibility. You know, I can't argue. Yeah, it's him, but um, I need to see if I can't go in. But you know, you can stretch a photograph and condense it. Um, and I hadn't even thought about that. So I'm gonna have to play with the computer and see how accurate that photograph is. Yeah, the Boston Marathon bomber. I had heard that also that he still receives all different types of love letters. And like I said, the women out there, y'all understand uh, that thought process, which I can't put myself into the mind of any woman, and I never try. But but I will ask Mrs. Steve, and it will be hilarious. Uh, I'll try to see what she says, but I can almost envision exactly what she'll say about these nuts that fall in love with these criminals. Stacy, you are that is absolutely that what I was thinking. That's going to be more Mrs. Steve's response. Bat crazy. Oh, Kowalski says, I hate to say it, but I'm not so sure Richard Allen did it. Not a problem. And we have to have those opposing to make sure justice is found. Because if everyone in the whole world thought that he did it, then of course you would never be able to get a jury out there. And even on the juries, it doesn't matter if they think they just have to find the jurors and the alternates that can sit on that trial and say that they haven't um, developed some type of opinion as far as his guilt or his innocence. And so, but no, I don't have a problem with that at all. Actually, um, we have to have that. And um, if Kowalski, if you ever want to send me an email of why you don't think so, absolutely do so, or mention it in chat. I mean, it's not a big deal. Debating about the issue slows everyone down, and we have to have that um, so that we don't just jump to the natural conclusion. So I respect that. Not a problem. Let's see here. Trying to get caught back up here. Yeah, I'm way behind, guys. Way behind. Hello, Cindy. Good to see you. And there is this possibility that I think he's done this before. He did something before. Like I said, you just don't wake up one day, walk to a bridge, and commit such a crime just out of nowhere. Bible group. I'm a conspiracy theorist, so I question everything. Oh, me. That's funny. Yeah, and you're right. It is innocent until proven guilty. And but man, there's a lot of evidence against him in my eyes. Of course, we got others that says not so much. It's too convenient, and that's you know there is a lot of evidence that out there against him, but he's the one that put himself there. Do you suspect the guy who owned the property was involved with Richard Allen? I always had a question about Ron Logan, and my question was always this: of why he made that alibi. And I'm always suspicious of anyone that makes an alibi. And I always had thought that maybe he found the girls on his property that night, and and for that reason he came up with an alibi. But of course, he has a driving history, and everybody says that's the reason why. And so, but I always found that suspicious. But once the FBI, the greatest crime lab out there, couldn't find any evidence linking him to the crime scene, um, I kind of backed away from that. But that doesn't mean that it's true. I mean, uh, don't think that the defense attorneys won't be bringing up the Ron Logan angle. They're going to be all over it, and they're going to do the same with Kagan Klein. They're going to be all over it. We're going to hear it. They're going to beat it into the ground. Um, those points about alternative offenders. Let's see what else we got going on here. Stacy says he wants to look sympathetic. Well, he does that. Because if I saw him on the side of the street, I would buy him a burger. Holly says, "Oh my goodness, you're live and I caught it. I'm glad you're here." That's inmates do a lot of things to get out of jail, and they will. They get sick, they'll injure themselves, anything to get out of that jail cell and go to a hospital. You're absolutely, and some of them escape from those. Let's see here. um, uh, Green sword bologna is a jailhouse staple in prison. You're not far off of that. There's a lot about just cheese and bologna sandwiches. Steve, have you ever worked a serial killer case? Can you tell us about it if you did? Thanks. I know an individual that I've talked to several that I suspect of being serial offenders. And, but I do know one individual personally I interviewed that I think he was the last person to speak to at least 5 people in their life. Um, and most of those were ones that did, at least 3 of them did self-harm, and then we had one that was drowning, and there was another 1 or 2 that it's somewhere between 5 and 7 that this individual was the last person to speak to. And think back in your own mind, it does happen sometimes that you are the last person to see someone alive. But this individual, somewhere between 5 and 7 people that he spoke to. So absolutely, I consider him one, and worked a cold case on him actually, where there was 2 victims. Um, do we know if this woman had her own children? She had a daughter, older daughter that has been implicated as in going to buy cleaning supplies for her, and then they had a long meeting of where they were met at her place of employment for quite a while. So it's very interesting. And Dave, you're right. I wouldn't, as far as his defense trying to get him a plea, I absolutely believe that's what they will try to do. And I can see your point, and he did. He said that, I was on the bridge, and why wouldn't you go to the cops and tell them you was there? And he did. And but he didn't see anyone else. He didn't see the witness that saw him on the first platform, and that's where his story doesn't make sense. And in the law enforcement world, when a story doesn't align, it doesn't make sense. That the girls, and when you're walking on that trail, she met them halfway back. The witness that saw Richard Allen on the first platform where Richard Allen says he was, and then uh, she turns around and goes halfway back. About halfway back, you're very close. You're just within a few yards of being able to see the bridge. Um, and as I walked it and looked at it, and so yeah, um, it'd be almost an impossibility for it would be an impossibility for him not to see the Libyan Abbey. I hadn't seen where Buster has gotten 550,000. That's interesting. Um, let's see here. Just trying to get caught back up here, guys. Appreciate y'all being here tonight. Betsy. Maybe Kim Kardashian used her skinny app on his photo. Oh, me. That's funny. Um, John Shepard, men do it too, I am sure. You know, probably so. And was it Jody Ayers? I don't know. Then you have um, Casey Anthony and all that. Um, man, I tell you, that's unbelievable. John says that there are some murderers I would want to interview if given the opportunity. I've talked to a few of them, and some of them are strange. Well, not some of them. Um, some of the I'm reading some of the comments in here, but almost all of them, like I said, their perspectives now is you know I talked to one time that uh, strangled a woman because she knocked on his door, and I've told this story before, and that I said you killed a perfect stranger for knocking on your door, and he said, "Oh no, we talked for 2 or 3 hours," and okay. But that was his response to justify that it wasn't a perfect stranger. He was more offended that I thought that he had killed a perfect stranger than the that he committed the act of a homicide, and that the homicide was less of an insult than the homicide of an innocent or someone that he didn't know. Strange. I don't know if he was a pharmacy tech at all. I don't. I know he worked there, and there's a debate between that. Joanne Jackson says, would he have done a lie detector test? I'm not sure how they work. And on some individuals, they don't work at all. I've seen it. And I don't have a lot of confidence in any type of polygraphs. Betsy, innocent still Steve convinces me. Oh, me. Yeah. I hate, and that's something I try not to do, but man, sometimes I lose my edge, and I do state an opinion. But it's just an opinion, guys. Come up with your own and argue with me about it. I appreciate it. Yeah, Triple S, I agree with you that it is unreasonable that for whatever reason they just find this individual that no one had heard of, um, and and this is a good argument, and that for people who say it isn't Richard Allen, that they out of the blue come up for no reason stating for this random innocent man 5 years later, that is an unreasonable theory. When you have the perfect um, criminal to lay it on, and that would be um, uh, Keegan Klein, for the fact that if what's in that transcript is correct, that he contacted the girls that morning, and then he went to Vegas and he looked up how long does DNA last on a body. If they wanted to convict anybody and not find the right one, he was, you know, in Georgia. I think he'd probably be serving time for it. if I was working the case and I had that on him, and he was my rabbit to run the hole, I would be screaming at the top of my lungs that this guy here um, is the one. And is he involved? It may be, but I and of course the attorneys will be all over that. Yeah, let's see here. Um, let me see here. And Ann, you may be right. If they're trying to manipulate the court, what will they do as officers of the court? Because I think there's some type of order on some of this, and hopefully they haven't violated it. Don't know. Let's see here. Trying to get called up again, guys. Y'all are. What channel would you guys recommend on Delphi case? That's a good question. Um, there's a lot of good channels out there. Um, just you know, go out there and look for them. But there's a lot of good channels out there. Yeah, you can watch some of my stuff on Delphi, but and I'd appreciate it. But no, like I said, there's a lot of good channels out there. Just watch them and take them all with a grain of salt. Even mine, question mine. And if you have any questions about it, most certainly send me an email or something. I'll be glad to answer and discuss anything with you. WL22 Kardashian figure filter. No, Holly, I wasn't able to get for the height comparison, but I have a contact, and I'll see if I can't get them to go over there and look at that. Why are there so many fights at the Waffle House? Um, it's due to that, like I said, when everybody is convenient, they're on the interstate, they're usually close to bars, and uh, and people have those last moments of before they get home, and they're trying to sober up, get some food, and in them. And when you get a bunch of people that's been drinking together, you're always going to get two of them that try to butt heads, and and it happens. Yes, some of these individuals can pass anything, and on polygraphs and otherwise. Did you use your flashlight on him too? Um, the last time I ever got to use a flashlight was the last time anyone got to use a flashlight at my department. uh, I did it extremely well, but Cynthia Gaines says, Steve, True Crime Way. I didn't understand what you said about Ron Logan. I'd always been suspicious of Ron Logan because he came up with that alibi of that. Uh, so that I always said, well, why would you create an alibi for anything? And of course, other people for the defense of Ron Logan said it's due to his driving history, and and that never really made a lot of sense to me. But and so I always argued that, man, it is awful odd for a man to create an alibi, and and I thought, well, maybe he found the girls and just didn't report them due to his probation and him being there. But when the FBI wasn't able to put him at the scene definitely and charge him, because if they could put him at the scene and not just in the general area, and when I did my testing of the general area and saw how the phones jumped, and that's how come they wouldn't be able to charge him, because people said, well, he was within feet of where the girls were. When I went and did my test and did the pings on the phone, sometimes it would ping me at a certain location. And then 30 seconds later, I hadn't moved 5 feet, but it would show me 200-300 yards away, which didn't happen. And so that cell tower was bouncing everywhere for me. And I'm doing this 5 years after the crime. So that's how come I backed away from the Ron Logan issue. That if the FBI couldn't convict him and they put everything they had against him, then I believe that he didn't have anything to do with it. Jennifer Rochelle. I know one I won't recommend. Oh me, y'all crack me up. And Dave, why would he ask if he wasn't there? You know, I work crime scenes, and I've been to and seen more death than a lot of people. And I've never ever looked up how long does DNA last on a body, and uh, that absolutely makes no sense to why he would ask that. Um, and so I still think there's a purpose there. I haven't watched it. I started reading up on the arrest affidavit today, and was and saw the evidence that they were processing, and then reading about what's in the arrest affidavit. That's really all I really need is when they put a lot of information in the arrest affidavit, because that's sworn testimony, and but it's still only probable cause. Uh, and it has to be tested by a trial, and that's where it's at now. But I put a lot of weight in when there's overwhelming evidence. Yeah, that's why they fight drunks. Mr. Steve, I was wondering why Libby's phone pinged at 2 a.m. when her phone battery apparently died at 5:30 earlier that evening. I don't know. Um, I have no idea about that, and of why it would. I know there was comments made by some of the family that it had pinged early in those morning hours. So there may be some truth to it, and I have no idea of how that could occur. Oh, Jennifer, AT&T and noticing issues recently. No, I think they had a solar flare, and I don't. I think it was a 1.2 that came in last week, so they may have some satellite issues. Yes, Betsy. Ron has passed. Boston Christian. I have AT&T. Do you mean glitch internet or phone? Now we get the glitch internet, and it's been terrible the last month. But the phones, um, I just had actually. Uh, Speaking of my phones, I had to go buy 2 phones this week. One of them said, "No more. I'm not going to work, Mr. Steve," and it just shut down all my contacts. Won't charge, won't do anything. Just went black on me, and so that's going to be a fun project for the next uh, month as people contact me. Well, it's my work phone that did that. That said, "Nope, Mr. Steve, you pushed the wrong button." I mean, well, all of us who are into true crime, is that really an issue to look up how long does DNA last on something? It for us, um, probably, you know, not so much. But now, if they come out and said Kegan Kline uh, was a fanatic about true crime, and he has the data plan, and he has all his searches, and he's into listening to some of these channels where they're talking about that stuff, and that's part of his normal search pattern, okay, I'll give it to you. But if it's just out that, oh, okay, we had a homicide and I'm in Vegas and I'm going whatever him and his family's doing in Vegas, and I'm doing searches and searches of the homicide, and then I decide for whatever reason to look up DNA, and he doesn't have a history of true crime, then that might be a clue. I don't know. No, that's it. No, don't apologize for not realizing I'd done anything on Delphi. Don't. Absolutely. Um, look for other channels, compare them, and you're going to find your favorites. And you're going to find some that may not be your favorites. But I appreciate you being here tonight, and absolutely check them out. There's some good ones out there. I can't figure out, Sharon says, I can't figure out why Richard Allen would say he was on the bridge if he didn't want to be found out. Um, we have to look at it from the standpoint that he is the offender. He knows that they're pulling cell phone tower information. He knows he walked by multiple witnesses and he was seen on the trails that day. And he knows that these people live in that small town. And whatever pushed him over the edge to commit these crimes, that that he knew that he couldn't just, because he would stick out like a sore thumb if he didn't say he was there. Do I think they would have found him from his cell phone information if he hadn't have said I was there? Probably so, because there was probably some type of check pattern that, okay, these people said they're there. Now, why they didn't follow up and do additional interviews, I have no idea how he slipped through the cracks. And a lot of people will have to answer for that during the trial. And that will be some interesting testimony. John says, have you seen much of the Lori and Chad Dable? No, I haven't. Chris is doing something on that this week, I think. Okay, Cynthia, good to see you. Have a good night. Yeah, I can't see a scenario that he isn't involved. I mean, he contacted them, man, and then he looked that up. Dandy wants to meet Nightbot. Oh God, that's so funny. Can you give us a quick, I guess that would be Keegan Clan review? You know, there's so much about Keegan. And when you just type in Keegan Klein transcripts on YouTube, and you'll learn everything you need to know. Because when that news broke, it turned the case upside down. And it is extremely interesting of some of the information that Murder Sheet podcast are the ones that originally released that information. And they, of course, it's heavily redacted and you don't have it, but there's unredacted transcripts out there. But law enforcement went out and because Keegan says that he talked to him morning of, and then he left town, and he claims he has nothing to do with it, and we don't know. Yes, Triple S, you're right. Just like Alex admitting to that he found the bodies and then, but didn't have anything to do with it. I know I mod for a channel. Sorry if you don't find it funny. I don't know. Did somebody not find the? I thought it was hilarious about the Nightbot thing. Oh, yeah. Kagan just pled guilty this week to the CSAM stuff. Yes. Oh yeah, we can. Um, yeah, that's. But the sad part about um, you go to another monster. Um, and we'll go to another monster. I mean, pick your monsters, and we'll go back and look at some of the victims and honor them. And like I said, this child here, these two additional kids, got one kid here and a mother, all of them killed by these monsters. Um, and how are we ever going to get all the monsters off the streets and get that monster off there? Um, is asking about Keegan Klein comparable to someone asking you to explain the Murdaugh case in a nutshell. Pretty much. Um, there's so much to it. And uh, and what is the quick 2 minute breakdown? It's impossible. It's impossible. Let's see here. Now, and this is that you speculate Richard Allen was on KK's customer list for catfishing, and going through that whole list, Richard Allen was the one whose overall profile started to check all the boxes. And um, there may be some clearinghouse of information out there that they share information that when these victims are catfished, that other that these victims may be catfished by more than one at the same time. That they that these victims, for whatever reason, will click and start a talking to or let someone in, and they're catfished by multiple people at the same time. So it is possible, and it's possible you could be catfished by two people that didn't know each other. But being if that's the case, you've got two people that catfished them. One of them Keegan Klein spoke to him early that morning, and then the other one, um, his bullet is found at the crime scene. So that's extremely odd. Cynthia Gaines says, "Who is the woman?" That's Maggie Murdaugh. She was, of course, a homicide victim of Alec Murdaugh, who he was married to her, and this is her son, Paul. That was also a homicide victim, um, uh, and so that's who they are. Jeff, I wish you could find one here in Georgia. I'd sit down and have a cup of coffee with you. If Richard Allen didn't see the girls and didn't see the witnesses, how many fish did he see? Good question and good point. Very good point. All right. Oh, yeah, we've already gotten back down to the food. Once again, we've entered into the uh, well, I don't know if Waffle House makes strawberry crepes. I've never. Uh, that's more of the IHOP. Um, oh, that's more of the IHOP, I think. Not that I'm an expert on IHOPs. That's it. With my own experience, I'm not at all surprised the father could do that to his wife and son. Yeah, I've seen, um, uh, these people, and you can go and look throughout the case histories, and you'll find where there are parents and fathers that do wipe out, annihilate their families, and which the prosecutor asked Alex if he was, and of course he denied it. We're going to be a fat chat soon. That's funny. Oh, y'all are so. Oh God, Lex Luthor. What? That's probably one of the best names for a true crime for somebody true crime to come on. I love it. Absolutely brilliant. And what a statement uh, that the supervillain. There is such a thing, International Waffle Day. Oh God, only only on the morning crew. Oh me. Oh. And there was a time that this was true at Waffle Houses. Um, last time I was at the Huddle House, the waitress asked, "Y'all need an ashtray?" before she even said hi. She had those little full kind that are smaller than a coaster. Oh man! Oh goodness! Y'all made my night absolutely wonderful. Well, guys, I appreciate y'all coming in tonight and spending some time with me on here on the Night Watch. I hope I answered a lot of your questions, and but I wanted to focus a little bit tonight about that as we move forward with some of these cases. We're going to see probably some of the things that is happening with the uh, uh, Letitia, or how you pronounce her name, with the Richard Allen too, because there was always in Carter's argument that there was an alibi that had to be broken, and what was that alibi? And um, did the family know and things? And who knows? But um, and not that uh, Richard Allen killed anyone in his family, but he did take the life of two innocent children, and he is a true monster. And we'll just have to see how the trial comes out when he gets his day in court, which I'm looking forward to. But anyway, let's see. Is anything else happening as we about to go home? But yes, everybody, y'all stay safe out there. Tomorrow or tonight, we will be having our regular show and our Thursday night show, and so If y'all have any questions between now and then, send me emails. Give me a thumbs up if you like the video. Subscribe and share it. And I appreciate everybody being here. And y'all have a safe night. And I'll see y'all in a few hours. Bye, y'all.